Can a poor boy from Evanston go through some tough times, travel around the country, come back to the 11th Congressional District, run in the 11th Congressional District Republican primary? Can that kind of guy take on the establishment, take on the party, take on the establishment candidate who might be state rep Darlene Singer? Can he win in that Republican primary, and then can he take on the Democratic incumbent Bill Foster? Can he do, I mean, you can't really do this unless you got a lot of support, financial support. You have to have a lot of businesses behind you. You got to let the organization, I mean, you can't really, and like organize, like with the Tea Party and grassroots. And can all of that happen? Maybe it can. And you don't turn that station, because you can find out about the 11th Congressional District Republican primary, which isn't being talked a lot about, but on Public Affairs it will be. We're gonna shine a spotlight on that race. And if you're in Aurora, if you're in Joliet, if you're in Bolingbrook, if you're in Naperville, many of these areas, talk about the others, it's important to you. And it's important to you if you're in Chicago, if you're in Rockford, if you're in the 34 Chicago metro suburbs, because who represents this state in the state of Illinois, in the U.S. Congress? That's important. And the kind of issues we're going to be talking about, they're common to everybody. So don't turn that station, because if you do, you'll be really sorry, because you'll miss a really, really, really good show. Just give him a good. You're watching Public Affairs. Berkowitz is my name, and politics is our game, and we will be doing lots of politics and public policy this evening, because as I said in the tease, we're going to be talking about the 11th Congressional District Republican primary. We have a guy by the name of Ian Bayne, who's here. He started out as a poor guy from Evanston. I started out as a poor guy from the San Fernando Valley. So you got in front of your set to say, two poor guys, okay? I mean, it sounds like not much of a show, but look, this guy has done a lot. And in a sense, he can identify with the people of the 11th Congressional District, because a lot of those folks just didn't, do this thing where they go to college, they get an undergraduate degree, they get an MBA, they become a member of the city council, then they become a, state rep, and then they become a part of the gang. And I'm not in any way denigrating that. And in some respects, I've done a lot of that myself, okay? But you have somebody else who's taken a somewhat different route, possibly to represent 700,000 people or so. Somebody who's a private eye, is that right?
I'm a partner in a detective agency.
So you can carry a gun?
I can carry a gun.
You're licensed to carry a gun?
I am licensed to carry a gun, yeah.
And you carry guns from
Not
sometimes?
on me now, no.
But you carry it sometimes?
You
know how to handle a gun?
Of course, I was in the Army too.
Okay. You were in the Army for 6 years,
sure,
right?
Sure, reserves.
In the reserves, right? And you know something about dropping out of college, because some people do, and you've done.
Could write a book out.
University of Massachusetts, you spent a little time at Harvard, right?
Oh, no, I shouldn't have told you
one
that.
class?
Just one class that I dropped.
Well,
I think I walked out.
If you spend a little time at Harvard in one class, that's all. You can, like Bill Gates spent a little time there, and he went on to Microsoft, right?
Sure, there's a little, yeah.
You know something about appraisals. You do that as a living, okay? You've got a feel for the real estate business. You know something about the foreclosures that have occurred.
Yes.
You know something about the crash in 2008.
Yes.
You know something about the freedom that this country cherishes?
Yes.
No, you shouldn't be so modest. Yeah. And people can find out a lot about you by going to BayneForCongress.com, right?
Yes, Bayne for, and it's a Y, remember, not B-A-I.
What?
Our family changed it from B-A-I-N just after.
As in Bayne, like Bayne and Company, because everybody knows about Mitt Romney.
Honestly.
And you know Mitt, right? You helped Mitt, right? Back in Massachusetts, right? But the people want to know here what makes you tick. They want to know, so I'll just start with that. What makes Ian Bayne tick?
I don't mind answering a question about myself, but I do think it's more about the issues. And if someone were to say to me, what makes me me, I would say what makes me me are the issues that drive me. And the reason why I'm in this race is really because right now you've got people who, again, modest beginnings of both of us, people can't pay their mortgages, people are struggling to make the car payments, people are trying to figure out how to pay rent, people are trying to figure out if they can retire, what does it mean to retire? These are the questions people are wondering about. So I like to think of myself as a person that I think about these things too, and that's why I'm running, not because I'm better than somebody else.
Okay, so what is the dominant issue? If you had to think of take two or three top issues that the voters of the 11th Congressional District are concerned about. For the moment, not just Republicans and Democrats. You're out there talking to people. You're out there banging on doors, right? Walking the precincts.
We're starting, yes.
You're starting. What's your sense? What are the two or three issues that you're hearing the most about?
I mean, I think the number one issue for me is Obamacare. I do believe it needs to be repealed, defunded, eliminated, stopped, reversed, whatever.
What are the voters saying? Do you think they agree with you? Are you feeling it? Is there a swell, because the Republican Party is pushing on this in a lot of areas, right?
Yep.
And you're talking about the Republican primary. They're pushing on the idea of talking about defunding Obamacare. It's already passed, it's already the law, but if the House might think they should, because that's controlled by the Republicans, they should defund Obamacare. Do you think that's is that a sensible position to take?
Look, there are a lot of people who are Republicans who say they don't like Obamacare, who truthfully are just fine with it being there because they don't have a problem with it.
Wait, there are a lot of people who, they don't like it, but they don't have to live by it, so they're fine with it.
I don't know. I think there are people who are elected to Republicans saying that they don't like it, which could care less.
Let's clarify this, okay.
Sure.
What is I said what are the two or three most important issues? Let's just go with the Republican primary. What are the two or three most important issues as you see it in the Republican primary?
I think the two most important issues in the Republican primary are the same in the general election. That is Obamacare and its existence, and two, we really are training an entire generation. It sounds like a stage thing. I'm saying it's not. We really are training an entire generation of young people to learn how to manipulate government in order to earn a living. And we need to instill a sense of entrepreneurship and just small business ownership in these people.
We're training people how to learn how to earn a living as opposed to be an entrepreneur.
We're training people how to fill out forms produced by the government. In exchange, they get a check every month. And that is, I think, the singular most
We're training people to do
thing.
that? Seriously?
Have you taken a look at 4 out of 5 Americans are in poverty, they say?
How many? What?
4 out of 5 Americans are in poverty?
No,
I saw
come
the
on.
article.
I
wish I brought the article.
You think 80% of America is in poverty? Is
That's
that what you're
according to
saying?
I will believe Washington something. I can.
What would be the poverty level? I mean, what's the median income in America? It's not a poverty level. Median is half or above or half or below. So
they're
what does that mean?
assistance.
Well, you're saying 80% of the people in America, in your view, get some kind of benefit from government. That's a very different statement from 80% of the people are in poverty, right?
That statement was made by the newspaper, not me.
Oh, the paper said 80% of the the people are in poverty in
But
America?
even it did.
What paper? Do you know the paper said that?
Boy, I wish.
Well,
I had
whoever it
brought
is, you should
I'm gonna
go
I'll
out of
email
business.
it to you.
That
Email
paper should go
website.
bankrupt because they're morally and financially, or morally bankrupt, because 80% of America is not in poverty.
But what you said is actually more important to my point, even if they're not.
80% get some benefit from government.
So-
But in a sense, some benefit could be something very small. Doesn't mean you're on welfare, doesn't mean you're gearing your life toward government. There could be some benefit. If you go to school at a public school, would that be a benefit? If you have kids who go to public school, so you're saying those people count? If you have kids that go to a public university, that counts? If you've ever gotten any kind of financial assistance, like food stamps, that counts? I mean, my point is, let's have a serious discussion. We only have about 25 minutes left. So let's not do stuff that's daffy.
Sure.
I'm not saying that, but I think the paper's kind of daffy over there where you're quoting that.
I really did. That really
Okay.
was the headline.
So one, the issue, you're saying major issue in the Republican primary is Obamacare, okay? Right?
I think it's a very important issue, yeah.
Yeah. And the second issue is, how would you put it?
I would say, however you want to say it, I'll let you say however you want, but when people are deriving economic benefit from government and they're trained to do so instead of relying on themselves and instead of relying on businesses, that's a very important, crucial issue in the country as we know it today.
Okay, they need to be more self-reliant. I mean, that's the broader way of putting it. People need to be not trained to rely on government, rely on somebody else, but to be more self-reliant.
We're being
that what
trained
it-
to be less self-reliant, I guess is what I feels like I'm dictating to people if I say you need to be more self-reliant. We're a country of rugged individualism. We're a country of people who take care of themselves, and they want to take care of themselves. They want to be responsible for themselves. And when you, as a government, go and say, we're going to pass laws to make it difficult to do that, instead, what we're going to do is we're going to give you this website, and you can fill out a bunch of forms, and we'll send you money. However you want to package that, however you want to swing that, or however you want to call that, that to me is destructive. And that, to me, has got to be stopped.
Okay. Let's go back to Obamacare. What's the problem with Obamacare as you see it? As a Republican, as somebody who's focusing on this Republican primary, it was passed, its legislation. What's the main problem with Obamacare as you see it?
The premise of Obamacare is the main problem, and that is this. Obamacare is a two-phased problem. Number one is that it is designed to bankrupt what we call healthcare insurers. So government will be the healthcare insurer. And the second and the final punch to this, this is really the key to the whole thing being as destructive as it is, and that is it is designed to tax businesses for the existence of the people that they employ. So it will allow the government to tax a business as much as they want to determine how much health care is for that person,
Now,
up and down.
Obama has said, look, if you're happy with your health care plan, the government's not going to take it away from you. Under Obamacare, everything's fine. But he says there are 30% or so of people who can't really get health care now. Some don't have it, some are struggling to pay for it. I'm being charitable, but I think this is what he said recently. I heard him say, why are Republicans against this? Are they against 30% of the people who don't have health care, don't have access to health care now, getting it? That was Obama's serious question to you as a Republican. If Barack were here, what would you say? If Barack said to you, are you against the 30% who either don't have health care now under the current system or are struggling to pay for it, under having an opportunity under Obamacare to have health care? Are you against that?
I am against the idea that government can fix that problem. I have not seen anything from government to show that they can fix the problem.
So seriously, if a person, say, do you know people who have pre-existing conditions? They have had a heart attack, maybe at the age of 42. You know, under the current system, if they stay with a firm and they have group health insurance, they can continue to be insured. But if they were to leave their employer and go out and say they'd left voluntarily, they were fired, they no longer were working for that company, and now they had to get individual life insurance, you know they couldn't get it because the insurance company would say you have a pre-existing condition. You're basically uninsurable. Do you understand that?
I know that there's a...
Let me just go with me for a few minutes.
Okay,
and then,
okay.
Do you understand what I just said?
I understand.
And you know that's true, right? Those people can basically not get insurance. If they live in Illinois, there's a program for high-risk employees, high-risk individuals. They could go to that, but it's extremely expensive, okay? Mm-hmm. So they basically are uninsured. You understand that. It's called the problem of pre-existing conditions. Now, there's not 30% of America like that, but there easily could be 2 to 5%. Those people, would you concede that? Those people have a difficult problem in the private sector currently, even though they've been responsible. They were paying their insurance when they were an employee. They were paying high premiums all the time. They led a good life. Something in their genetics led them to have a heart attack, okay? Or something else, cancer, etc. Good things, bad things happen to good people, right? You understand that?
Okay.
So they didn't do anything wrong, but now they're uninsurable. Can government do anything to assist those people? Should government do anything to assist? I'm not saying that's Obamacare. Let's just start with that.
It's not.
Would you agree that that's a place where government has a role and they could do something?
Yes.
Okay. You would agree with that?
There's two issues. Let me say what they are. Okay. One is government has a role, and that is a role that they've stuck their nose into, and that is regulating insurance companies. Did you know in certain states like Massachusetts, where I lived for a considerable amount of my life, you can only buy certain approved health insurances that the government allows you to take. So they don't let the free market address those people's concerns and problems.
But you might agree.
They regulate it.
But given that there's a certain amount of regulation,
sure.
and
And
given that people want a certain amount of regulation, and given that
you think those people want to be regulated and don't want an option, really?
Some people want a certain amount of regulation. Now they may have bad with good.
They probably don't have pre-existing conditions.
Well, would you agree?
They probably would rather have an option.
But you agree currently in America, we're taping this show. Yeah. We're taping this show on August 10th, 2013. So we're not in 1910. Okay. We're not in 1950. We're not in 1776. Okay? Right. Seriously.
Sure.
We got these conditions. Okay? This environment. And we had this problem with pre-existing conditions. Now, do you think government, the people in the 11th Congressional District Republican primary, do you think they want you to concede there's a problem and perhaps something could and should be done by government Forget Obamacare. I'm not saying that's...
No, there
that's
is definitely something that could be done with government,
Okay.
and that is that government can go to the insurance companies and say, you know, instead of overhauling and regulating everybody's life, we're going to get out of your way. You figure out a problem with these pre-existing people, and we'll check back with you in a couple months and see how you've done. I have far more faith in that approach than the same approach we've been fighting the war on poverty for 75, 80 years, and we still seem to be at the same spot.
Say that one more time. What was the approach that you just proposed?
Hey, if you want to go to those people in government that are being overregulated, I'm sorry, those people in the insurance industry, they're being overregulated now, I would say overregulated, and say, listen, we're going to lessen the regulation in exchange for, see what you can do about these pre-existing people.
conditions.
You know, we'll check back in 6 months. You know, the way Obama does, he appoints his little committees and lets them do
So you're
whatever.
saying that's what you're recommending, seriously, is that the government say, we'll deregulate you a little bit and try to do something on the private sector to
watched
handle
the price
No,
of
I'm just saying it's a question. Just answer
I
that
mean,
question. Is that what you would do?
Is that what I would do if I was president?
Yeah, is that what I asked? I'm just trying to say, what would you do about pre-existing conditions? It's a very simple question.
You got to get rid of the regulations that are strangling the insurance industry.
So you're saying those regulations are causing the insurance industry to have this policy about pre-existing conditions that makes people who have these conditions uninsurable.
I'm not an expert in insurance, so I can't.
Okay.
I don't. You know, I don't.
But you would somehow
I don't lie to you.
deregulate with the idea that would be more likely to deal with the pre-existing condition problem than something like the regulations
If
from
you're an
Obamacare.
insurance company and you want to offer somebody at the age of 10 a child for a very low price and say, hey, in a catastrophic situation like the one you're describing, you can have a low price insurance for the rest of your life, I'm sure someone can find a financial instrument which will produce that policy. But when government says, no, you can't do that, we've got too many rules and regulations, then you know, where do we begin on that?
Okay. So we have to go on to other issues, but in 1 minute now, sorry, just kind of get somewhat sidetracked.
No.
But would you, if you were sent to Congress, if you won the Republican primary, if you beat Bill Foster, who's the Democratic incumbent in the 11th Congressional District, and we hope, by the way, Congressman Foster will come out and be on the show. We hope Darlene Singer, who's one of your opponents in the Republican primary, will come on the show. We've had Darlene on before as a state rep. She's been a gracious guest. We had a call into her. We haven't heard back from her. We hope she'll do that, okay? But would you, if you did all that and you got sent to Congress and you were voting and there was a bill to defund Obamacare, would you vote aye, yay, or nay?
Yes.
Yay, okay. The issue of guns, some people think it's somehow a federal issue. There used to be an assault weapon ban on guns. It was like, I can't remember how long ago, 10 years ago.
I think 94 to 97 or 8.
2000, I don't remember. So it was,
maybe,
it was,
yeah,
a
you're right.
it was banned, I think it was in the Clinton administration, it might have
Maybe
been
it was
removed
96 to
a
2000.
long time ago. Would you bring it back? You would be opposed to assault weapon ban, right?
Yeah, you
You
don't.
wouldn't bring it
I
back.
don't think.
You don't want any more gun control. You would say no more federal gun control legislation. In fact, you'd probably say no more gun control legislation from anybody, state, city, or federal. That
At
would
the
be your
federal level, I
policy.
don't think there needs to be any.
What about, okay, you would repeal all the federal gun control legislation. Okay. And you would allow it to be regulated, if at all, by the city or the state, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. You believe in the Second Amendment.
Sure.
You believe that people have a right to carry guns and possess guns in their home.
Yeah, without
And
question.
also have a right for concealed carry, right?
Absolutely, yes.
You think that makes them safer?
Yes.
Because do you think should the state we have concealed carry legislation that just passed. It requires people to be trained, to have a certain amount of trained hours before they can get a concealed carry permit, so they can carry a concealed gun in certain places. Did you favor that legislation?
I mean, it's better than nothing.
Better than nothing. So but you think people should have to be trained before they can get a concealed carry permit? Or not? Anybody should just be able to walk in and say, not we walk in, people just get a gun and conceal it and that's all? That should be the law in Illinois?
Yeah,
Okay,
I do.
yeah.
Or you know what? Amend the Second Amendment. Get rid of this. If you believe otherwise, you should go to the Second Amendment and get
What
rid
does
of
the Second Amendment say? You know the words?
the right to bear arms. Are you going to tell me it's my arms?
No. What does it say? Do you remember? It's only about 8 or 9
The
words.
right to, I don't have it memorized. The right to bear,
Shall not
bear
be
arms
infringed. But it's been construed by courts unreasonably, okay? So there's a modest number of regulations that almost everybody agrees. Background checks. I mean, they say, look, we don't want people who are ex-felons to have guns. Do you think ex-felons should be allowed to have guns?
I think that if somebody is arrested and they're sent to prison, it should be the terms of the judge to make that decision.
Okay. But not automatically. So you would disagree with that view that ex-felons should...
Well, if somebody goes to court to jail for IRS fraud, I don't know what having a gun is going to...
So the law should be somehow more discriminating in terms of who can and cannot carry guns based on their criminal history.
To
Is
me,
that
the
right?
Second Amendment's pretty clear.
Okay. And so if you're insane, you should be allowed to carry a gun? If you've been adjudicated insane, you were once in an insane asylum, you've now been released, you can get a background of insanity, but you say, that's fine, you can carry a gun.
I mean, are you talking about some guy drooling on himself who's walking around in circles, quick circles on the street or
I
something?
don't know. People can
Look,
get...
obviously-
What level of sanity would you say is required for you to be allowed to carry a gun? None?
You have to be a registered Republican.
That's seriously? No? Okay.
I'm kidding with you.
Okay.
No, look, obviously, if you're incompetent...
We
if
have a
you're
lot of
declared mentally
crazies. You have a lot of people walk in, like the guy in Boulder, okay, or the guy in Connecticut recently, the most recent shooting where you saw 20 kids and maybe 8 teachers in Connecticut, right? You're familiar with that, right?
Sure.
And the guy was nuts, okay? He was upset with somebody, he was upset with his mother, he stole the guns from his mother, she had the guns legally, he walked in and blew away 28 people, 20 of whom were minors, first graders. Would you agree that guy's probably insane, right?
Let me say this.
Would you agree? Just tell me, would you agree?
Is he insane? I don't know. He might just want attention. I don't really know.
Do you think anything should be done to try to stop a person like that from going and doing what he's done?
Look, it's a good question. Let me answer it.
Okay.
If someone isn't too incompetent to drive, obviously we don't allow them to drive.
Right, okay.
The same kind of thing.
Same thing with guns.
Yeah. I
In
mean, I don't know if the same test,
but a
but I
certain
mean-
level of competency for you to carry a gun. And you're saying that guy might not have passed that because we might have been able to find he was insane.
That guy, I don't know.
Maybe you're saying that just happens in society, and then maybe that's the answer. There's certain things you can't prevent. They're very lamentable, very sad, but we cannot prevent all bad things.
I don't want to
happening.
shock you on your own TV show, but we cannot possibly protect all people through government. No.
So, I mean, you have to have a certain style when you do this. You're going to run for Congress, right?
Yeah.
Would it be true to say you have to have a certain je ne sais quoi? You understand? Je ne sais quoi? It's a French saying,
I'm trying to figure out where you're going
je ne
with
sais quoi? You've heard that phrase, right?
Yes, I have.
Okay. So if you're going to run for Congress, you can't just shoot from the hip completely. We've talked about health care.
Yeah.
We've talked about guns. Let's talk quickly about education.
Sure.
School voucher, school choice. You're in favor of that?
I'm in favor of that. I'm in favor of shooting from the hip.
Okay, in favor of shooting from
Absolutely.
the hip, seriously.
I'm
That's good.
serious. I think people
Are you another Joe Walsh?
People are
Would you
ready-
like to, you know Joe Walsh in the 8th
I don't
Congressional
know him.
District?
I shook his
But
hand
you know
once.
of him, yeah. And Joe would say, like, when people say, essentially, I don't know, it wasn't the same phrase, but say people said you shouldn't just, shoot from the hip. He says, I don't know, what's wrong with doing that?
Don't
okay?
you dare answer questions.
Yeah.
We don't do that as
Okay.
politicians.
You're
right?
ready to do that. You're
We're gonna
saying,
answer questions
are you saying
to people,
Darlene
yeah.
Singer, your main opponent so far in the Republican primary, that's what she'll think carefully, she'll choose her words. And I'm not knocking Darlene.
Sure.
Are you setting up, that's a bad thing. We want people to shoot from the hip,
We have too many people who don't answer
who
questions.
don't
at all,
answer
who are
questions.
elected officials.
Do you think Darlene Singer's one of those?
I don't see an issues section on her website, so
Okay.
that makes me a little concerned.
You have an issue section.
You bet. First
You're
thing I
pretty
did.
clear, Second Amendment, you're a big Second Amendment guy, that's on your website.
Absolutely.
You haven't said that education, you want to empower parents, you want maybe the feds should be out of education more, and you haven't said in your website, but right now you're saying school voucher, school choice, yeah, you're okay with that.
I kind of think Congress should be out of education personally, but
It's
sure,
a state
I'd
issue.
be for that as well, yeah.
You would like to see school voucher, school choice?
I'm fine with that, yeah, I'll answer your
Okay.
question.
Okay. And so is the big issue in the living, is it all jobs? Because the unemployment rate is very high across the country we're now in the 5th year of our economic recovery coming out of a recession. And unemployment's still, what, 7.5%?
I believe it's about 53% if you do population to work.
There are a lot of people who are underemployed and doing other jobs. Is that a big issue? That is a big issue for you, right? You
Over
read
half
your
the people
website.
unemployed, yes.
You want the government, you say, to stimulate, just like they have tax credits for people who have kids, and essentially subsidize child production. You're saying they should subsidize business production. Government should have subsidies to start up businesses. Is that right?
I think a subsidy should be a tax cut for all people who want to start a business.
And you would like to see payroll tax cuts in the federal level, corporate tax cuts, individual income tax cuts just cut.
You bet.
And yet you say you want to balance the budget, right?
It should be a goal, absolutely.
So does that mean a tremendous cut in spending to match those tremendous cuts in taxes?
What we did in 1995.
Okay, so get back to the 1990 levels in spending.
No, I get back to the method that got us there.
No, but you did say on your website you want to go back to 1990 levels in spending, don't you?
Probably even less than that, to be perfectly
Okay.
honest with you. Yes.
And do you think people in the 11th Congressional District, when you say that, they might say yes, but then when you said to them, now, okay, should we have less federal aid to education coming to you people in Bolingbrook, coming to you people in Aurora, coming to you people in Joliet, coming to you people in Naperville? You think that'd be popular if we said less federal aid for your kids for education?
I mean,
Do
boy,
you
what
see
a
the
loaded
problem?
question. I do see the
People want to
problem.
cut spending, but when you say your, because you said 80% are getting some benefit from government, when we say we're cutting your benefit, oh, no, I meant to cut that guy's benefit. You understand the problem?
I understand that Newt Gingrich pulled to get John Kasich aside and said, balance the budget, do it, I don't care.
Okay.
He did, and kids were still getting as poorly educated by government as they are today.
Okay. But you wouldn't ban high volume clips, that's not a problem.
Clips, you mean magazines?
Yeah, magazines.
Is it a problem?
I mean, do people really need to have a magazine that allows them to reel off 100 shots?
Do
in a
people
minute?
really need to wear pants when they walk around the street? I mean,
but
I
is that
don't
different?
know. I mean, who is
Well,
anyone to
machine
say
guns
that?
are illegal now on the federal level. Would you remove that ban? You think people should have machine guns in society?
I think machine guns are legal in certain states. I believe.
I think they're mostly. I think on the federal level we've banned machine guns a long time
You know, I
ago.
don't have a machine gun, obviously.
Do you oppose that ban on
I
machine
don't
guns?
think the country would be much different at all. I don't. I think crazy people have found a way to kill others, whether it's with a car or a machine gun or a bomb or something. We've proven that that's to be the case. I mean, they'll fly airplanes into buildings if they have to.
But yet you want a national business registration because some people might say that's odd because you want to have local control. But you talk about a national business administration
I've never said
registration, national business registration in your website.
I'll go remove that right now. I don't.
Okay.
Did I say? What did I say?
Yeah.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I don't remember where
Yeah,
that.
you say that you would like to have. I think it implies that there's lots of complications, different areas of registering for business in the city, county, state. If you imply,
I think
if
I
you
know
had done
where-
on a
yeah.
federal level, you'd have one place. You wouldn't have to get hurt. If the Fed said it was okay, then Cook County couldn't say it wasn't okay. The state of Illinois. That sounded to me. You didn't elaborate.
I'd like to get rid of all registrations. I'm
okay.
tired of
That's odd, because
registrations
it
of
sound-
stuff
you should
and
take a
people.
look. You're on
I'm
site.
going to look at that.
You're
Boy,
on site.
the word
Okay.
no, I'm not doubting you. I'm just maybe I'll
Social
Hey,
issues.
I can make mistakes too.
Social
I'm
issues.
just
You're
human.
pro-life, right?
I am pro-life.
Okay. Does that mean should a woman, if her life were at issue, should he have a right to have an abortion?
I've thought about this quite a bit. I personally believe, just as I believe that I'm a sinner who need. I want to turn this into a religious program. Just as I believe there are terrible things, ideally, no, you shouldn't kill a child because of the circumstance they're born into. But I'm not prepared to go and change any laws.
No, wait a second. So if a woman's life were at issue, you would say.
Oh, the life is an
If
issue.
her life were at issue, if she were going to lose her life, a doctor said, unless she had an abortion, should she be allowed to have an abortion?
As a person, I would think you're talking about two different lives. Yeah,
She should be.
I mean, if
You
it's
would
another
allow
person,
abortion, but you wouldn't allow an abortion in the cases of rape or incest, right?
I don't know. I've thought about that. I don't know.
You don't know. Your answer is I don't know. You'll get back
That is
to
my
us.
answer.
Okay.
I legitimately don't know.
We're
I've thought
going to
about this
continue to
issue,
speak as the credits roll, but I very much want to thank Ian Bayne. He's been a good sport. We've covered a number of issues. We've been from healthcare to employment, now to the social issues. He is getting his views out there. One thing you can say about Ian, he's not shy. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
It's a pleasure.
We hope State Rep Darlene Singer will also not be shy. We hope Bill Foster, running as a Democrat, the incumbent, will not be shy. People shouldn't be shy. If you want to hold high office, you should come on public affairs, right?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, since we only have, same-sex marriage, you're okay with that? No, you're opposed to same-sex marriage.
Oh, boy. How many seconds do we have?
We got like 10 seconds. If
No,
you had
I'm
to say,
opposed to same-sex
So
marriage.
we should not have laws in Illinois. I know it's a state issue. You would be opposed to a law in Illinois
Get
that
government
says,
out of marriage. Rand Paul thing.
No,
I'm all
but
for it.
the government does license marriage. So given that you're saying anybody should be allowed to marry. If the church says you want to be married, you say fine.
I want to marry my handgun and take my wife on the plane.
You are a Rand Paul. Are you a Tea Party guy?
I would consider myself, yes.
Okay. You're a libertarian.
I never used that term. No.
You don't. Okay. All right. So, and how do people get in touch with you?
BayneForCongress.com.
Okay. You're out there soliciting funds. You're out there soliciting votes. Your strategy to get elected in the Republican primary is what?
Pray.
Right? Seriously? Yeah, but you've
It's
got
part
your
of-
Bible.
No, you have to. I am
Your
a
site
Bible
says
guy.
you're a believer in Bibles.
I am
Bible
a
values.
Christian. I'm very
You're married.
I'm married.
You were born Jewish, but you're converted to Christianity now.
That's correct.
You're married, right?
Yes.
You're a stable family values kind of guy.
I think so.
And the core
try.
thing you're running, the most important thing you want the Republican primary voters to know is?
You got to get rid of Obamacare. It's
That's
essential.
That's the big
It
good
really
thing.
is the big thing.
That's the rallying cry.
That's the most important thing for this country right now.
Do you think you